Good afternoon. This is Kathleen at My Alabama Farm Life, and I've been working really hard on getting my raised bed garden going. And I've had a bunch of failures, mostly my chickens, but I think I've got them in the pen and they haven't been getting out much recently, which is great. So I have been able to get a few things growing. So what I've done so far is I've taken a lot of the greens that I had growing in my hydroponic systems and I put them in dirt. I ended up leaving the basil and the tomatoes in the hydroponic systems, except for this lettuce, and I think that's arugula back there. I'm going to leave those in there to grow and see how well they do. And so far, they've been growing spectacularly. But before the end of this video is done, I'm going to have them out in the ground too. Here in my froggy bed, I haven't had a lot of luck with plants, so I'm going to go ahead and take all these spring or these green mixes that have done really well in these little soil pods, and I'm going to put them here in this raised bed. This is the Housei Mizuna. It grew really well in the hydroponic systems. I really love this plant. I really love how it has the purple stems and the green leaves, and I can't wait to find out what it tastes like. And if you're looking for it, it's also known as Japanese pink Mizuna. The roots on these little plants are not real strong. When I went to put them in the ground, they kind of fell out of the soil, so I just tucked them back in, and hopefully I won't lose too many. I ended up planting 7 of these little seedlings of the Housei Mizuna plants. I am still very amazed as to how well these little plants have grown. When I read the descriptions, it says that it prefers well-drained soil and a rich organic matter. And it says these seeds are best sown directly into the garden. And as you know, I raised these in the hydroponic system, and then there were so many of them in the little seed pots that I ended up ripping a lot of them apart, and we lost a lot of the root. I didn't think that they were going to survive after I put them in the soil of the little pods, but they did, and look how well they're doing. The next set of seedlings that I'm going to plant are going to be the arugula. I ended up with 3, 1 in each hydroponic systems, but one of them is still in the system and one of them I separated. The roots actually clung a little better to these plants than it did the Mizuna, and they were a little bit easier to transfer from the little soil pods into the ground. This next tray holds 3 of the crisp head lettuce. I am really looking forward to getting these into the ground and getting them growing. They are very pretty little lettuce heads. These little lettuces also grew in a nice little root system, and when I popped them out of the container, they just dropped right into the holes that I created for them. For right now, I'm pretty much done with this half of the bed. I actually have seeds on the other side, and I want to make sure that the chickens don't get in here and mess anything up, so I'm going to make sure that I have this black garden mesh over all my new seedlings and my seeds, because I do not want my chickens messing up this bed again. Amazingly, I've managed to keep my purple cabbage growing in here and 2 little lettuces that I have and my bok choy. And I'm just hoping that everything else comes up really well here. Now I need to move over to my garlic bed. I actually have some nice garlic coming up, and I had some more of the Mizuna, or the rest of it, that I planted over here on the other side. But I need to get in here and I need to finish planting my garlic, and I'm thinking maybe getting some onions in here too. This is garlic that I bought from Haas Seeds, and I already have half of this raised bed planted with it. Well, at least this half section, half of it is planted with the garlic, and now I need to plant the rest of it. Now, when planting these, you want the pointy part facing up towards the sky and the blunt part, where the roots are, down into the soil. You want to push these down into the ground about 3 inches. The soil in this bed is really loose and fluffy, and the garlic went in really easy, and it took me no time at all to get all these garlic into the ground. Now that I have all the garlic planted into this 1/2 of my raised bed, I'm going to go over here to the other side, and I changed my mind. I am not going to plant onions. I'm going to go ahead and put spinach in here. So this is going to be real easy. I'm just going to make a little trough and throw some seeds in, and then I'm going to be done with this raised bed. Everything will be done. Now this spinach is the Avenger spinach, and I grew it last year in my other raised bed, and it did really well, and that's why I decided not to put the onions over here. I don't have any spinach growing right now, so I thought this would be a great spot for it. It's going to be over here by my Mizuna and my arugula, and I just think it will mesh really well with the spinach. All right, this raised bed is done, and I'm going to put my black mesh on top of it to keep it safe from the chickens, and we'll be done with this bed. Now I have to work on my problem bed. In this bed, I planted a whole bunch of cabbage, and the chickens just killed it. I mean, I still have a few plants in here, but they're basically dead. Now over here on the other side, I saved it. I was actually going to do spinach and carrots, but I decided that I'm going to do all carrots in this half of this raised bed. Now this soil is also very loose and nice and fluffy, and I think it's going to grow these carrots really well. Now we got some great carrots last year, and I'm hoping that I get even better carrots this year. So just like my spinach that I just planted, I'm just going to make a few little wells for the seeds, and then we're just going to sprinkle the seeds down into those wells. I'm going to be planting the same carrots that I planted last year. These are also from Haas, and these are Karuta carrots. I'm going to try really hard not to overseed these little wells, because last year I had way too many seeds in the planter and they just grew like crazy. We had carrots forever, but I'd like to be a little lighter than it was last time. Like the spinach seed, the carrot seeds are also pretty tiny, so you don't want to put a heavy layer of soil over the top of them. I'm just going to brush some soil very gently, and they should come up just fine. And also, one of the things that I learned the hard way is that if you want to start carrots, you have to cover them with something. So I'm going to take this old feed bag that I cut in half and place it here over the top of these seeds, and I'm going to leave it there for a couple of days until the seeds germinate. Now I want to make sure that this bag stays put because it's been pretty windy here lately, so I'm going to use these bricks to keep it held down. So now it's time to address the cabbage issue that I have on the other side of this raised bed. Now some of these have little leaves on them, but they're tiny, and these cabbage, they just really haven't done too much of anything. So I decided this is where I'm going to put my onions. These are also onions from Haas Tools. I bought a 3-pack variety, and these are the Sapello, I believe they're called. I'm using a different technique than I did with my other onions across the street in that raised bed with my strawberries. I just took my little shovel, I dug a little hole, and put the onion in the hole and covered it with soil, and that's basically it. I started off standing up and bending over planting these onions, and my back really started to hurt. So I went and got me a 5-gallon bucket, flipped it over, and made it my little stool, and finished up planting the onions in this bed. Now, these onions were very time consuming, but I did manage to get this half of the raised bed full of onions in between the few cabbages that look like they might grow. Cabbage and onions are companions in the garden, so there's not going to be any issues with this. Hopefully, the onions will improve the health of the cabbage, and maybe I'll get a few heads out of this poor cabbage after all this year. So I managed to get 3 of the 4 raised beds finished. They all got a good drink of water. Carrots are covered. Everything is safe from the chickens. And now it's just wait and see what grows. Now, this is my 4th and final raised bed. I did not get it finished for 2023, so we're going to have to wait for 2024 to see what I'm going to get done in this one. All right, guys, as you can see, this is all I've been able to get done, but I think that's pretty good for the end of 2023, and I have a lot of plans in the works for 2024. The yards here need a lot of cleaning up, and I think that's what I'm going to work on, and getting the garden ready for spring. That's also a lot of work. So guys, I will see you on my next video in 2024. So you guys have a very, very happy new year. Have a blessed and joyous holiday, and I'll see you on my next video. Hey, Vincent.